The EU will see Brexit as a chance to make some much-needed fundamental changes in its own internal policy, says Dr. Christa Brunnschweiler, UEA. Considering the result of the referendum, how do you think the FTSE 100 will fare in the coming weeks?
I think there will be continued turbulence until it becomes clear who will head the new government and who will lead the negotiations for exiting the EU and what the exit strategy will actually be. At the moment, there have been mass resignations in the Labour shadow cabinet. There's a prolonged uncertainty over who will succeed David Cameron as Prime Minister because he has announced that he will only step down in October. And there's also a continuing lack of any clear ideas from the Brexit camp of how to proceed. And all of these factors are currently translating into more losses on financial markets.
How do you think Europe will react to the decision of Brexit in the coming months?
The world will continue to revolve, and the EU will eventually adjust to the new reality of losing one of its major, albeit always critical members. I think there are two possibilities. My personal hope is that the EU will see Brexit as a chance to make some much-needed fundamental changes in its own internal policies. I think that the idea of ever closer integration for all has to be abandoned, and the euro needs to be rethought. And finally, free labor movement probably also has to be opened up for discussion, although this will be very hard as it is one of the core principles of the Union. Another possibility, one that is less positive, is that there will be more of a movement of dissolution of the EU triggered by Brexit, because limiting immigration and its effects, or let's say the perceived effects, has been at the heart of nationalist movements all around Europe, which are threatening to drive the Union apart and have now received a boost from the Brexit vote. And if these continue to go on, I think that European peace and stability may actually be threatened for years to come. So there are two sides.
How do you think trade will continue?
Well, in the very short term, trade in goods will continue much as it has, as contracts are being fulfilled. I think actually British exports will get a boost over the coming months if the pound continues to be weak, which is very likely. This would actually diminish the UK's chronic trade deficit, which will be good news for the economy. On the other hand, depending on the exit strategy from the EU, there may end up being quotas and duties imposed on British exports to continental Europe. How this pans out, we will have to see over the coming couple of years. An interesting thing is that a large part of the UK's export is actually not in goods, but in services, and financial services in particular. Around 40% of service exports go to the EU, and I think these are endangered with Brexit. Already, many British firms are announcing a halt on investment, according to a survey by the Institute of Directors, which was published today. And quite a few are considering relocating to another EU country. And London City's financial sector firms are actually being courted as we speak by Paris and Frankfurt, as they plan to move many roles out of the UK. If we look at the import side, heavy losses in purchasing power of the pound are likely to translate into lower imports over the coming months. And imports from the EU area are, of course, also likely to change depending on what the exit strategy will be.
Is it fair to suggest that markets will now stabilise as a decision has now been made?
I don't think a decision has actually been made yet until we know what is going to happen afterwards, what the exit strategy is, who will lead negotiations, and until Article 50 has actually been invoked, which has still to happen, markets are likely to continue to go up and down and be very unstable. But yes, they will eventually stabilize again as the next bit of news comes up.
A big thank you there to Senior Lecturer in Economics at UEA, Dr. Christa Brunnschweiler. Well, that's all from me, but do make sure to check back with Celeste Skinner for our first forecast of the week. Bye for now.